Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 68 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. Lots of information dumped on us in this one, so let's get into it. We start in the safe house that Bernie made for the party so they could rest up safely. Ashton asks Chetney to show off the new sword he got from the battlefield. Chetney asks FCG to identify the sword for them so they know what it is. It's called Kraz Tachar, the Luminary Blade. FCG hears the blade talk to them and says they can do great things together. FCG asks if it was a god. The sword says no, it was once a king. The sword doesn't remember anything and fears that whatever killed him took his memories. He wants to fight against evil of this land, or the evil of this land. FCG informs the others that it's seemingly alive. FCG asks how this happened to the sword. He says with his last bit of strength he did this to himself. He doesn't remember his name, but he guesses the name of the sword is now his name. The sword is about 3 feet long and 6 inches wide, which is quite hefty. Ashton doesn't trust it and wants to know more. Imogen casts detect thoughts on the sword, but nothing happens, as it's not like alive, it's just kind of a consciousness of the sword. Chetney tells FCG to attack him with it, but doesn't really want to, but is convinced to do so. Unfortunately, they miss with a natural 1. Ashton says to ask what it was a king of. The sword doesn't remember. He claims to be a king from a time of great magic, which could mean pre-calamity, but there's, according to Ashton, there's a ton of times of great magic, so they don't really trust it. FCG tosses the blade to Ashton. The sword can feel the path Ashton walks and the strength within him and wants to work with him. He says there's something that wishes to undermine the Tal'Dorei Council. This puts the party back, takes the party back a bit. Ashton puts the sword down. The party questioned the council's existence from way back when, but it's been around for a long while. Ashton asks the sword who held it before. They fought the last one to hold him, a terrible demon. He was held before that by a great warrior, and before that a keeper of beasts, and a few others that he continues to go on about. FCG says they can do something else with it. Ashton gives it back to them, and FCG casts legend lore on it. FCG hears through the weave of magic. They learn that the sword was the prince that called upon a demon to help win the battlefield in this area, or to help win the battle in this area, and still lost. It will corrupt the holder. FCG hands the blade to Chetney and tells him that the blade might be a demon. The blade tells Chetney that FCG probably is just feeling the presence of the last holder. Chetney thinks it takes the personality of the wielder and might become a good carving or wood carving tool. Ashton questions if it can hear everyone. Chetney asks if it can, and the sword says he's not just a weapon, he's a companion and can take in a bit of his surroundings, but will only talk to him. FCG suggests thinking about it for the night. The party question using it. Chetney says he'll toss it away if it's bad. Ashton takes it again. The sword says he can feel Ashton's strength and promises to be a worthwhile weapon. Lana points out that Fern just made a pact or a deal with the devil, so this isn't strange for them to think this way about a sword. Ashton says they can talk or take the night to not make the choice or not. They open up the hole and are about to throw the sword into it. Imogen and Fern think they should use it. Orym looks to Bernie and says, "This is the group that I run with." Bernie says she rolls with personality-driven people as well, so it's alright. Fern says if things go bad, they can just get rid of the sword. Ashton says to Chetney that you'd probably be the easiest one to kill. Imogen says that she can take 8 people to Zephyr in the morning and then get the Ashari to open a tree to Bernie. Bernie says to tell her sister to scry on them first so they know what tree they're next to. Lana says they'll walk to a big enough tree with the Tempest Blades and Bernie and then teleport back home to get someone to help. Bernie really likes this idea. Ashton then looks at Chetney again and says it's Chetney's call, but if things get weird, I'll crush your hand. Chetney agrees. The Tempest Blades all take a breath of relief. for the first time in probably days, and the soldiers of the Bastion do the same. The party go to sleep, and Imogen is pulled into her dreams once more. Imogen is pulled into the red storm. She sees the red dust and lightning. She sees a massive dark shape within the storm. The winds part and she can see hundreds of homes, domiciles, and humanoid shapes moving through the city here. They all stop and look at Imogen. Their eyes all glow purple. Imogen feels a yearning. She hears, "Imogen, please run. I won't let it have you." Imogen fights the yearning sensation and asks, "How can I trust you?" She's pulled down toward the ground, but she breaks free from this pulling and pushes her way up out of the storm. She's drifting above the rudest skyline. She can see Exandria above, and a single red, thin line connecting the two. She looks down and sees pockets where the storm subsides a bit, and she can see movement within these pockets. She can't make out the details from here. Imogen wheels herself towards these pockets above the storm. She looks down and sees red valleys and mountains, and inside sees beasts, chasms, and rivers. It's like a weird shadow version of Exandria. She feels someone behind her. She casts detect thoughts and feels her mother. She turns around and sees a spectral version of her mother. She says that she just wants to protect Imogen. Imogen asks why she didn't back then, and asks if the shunting everyone away was her doing. Liliana says no, it wasn't her. Imogen asks if she's going to release Predathos. Liliana says that Imogen deserves to be free. Imogen asks at what cost, and Liliana is pulled away from Imogen, and Imogen is pushed away as well. She returns back to her regular sleep. During this, FCG is still awake and casts Commune. They are pulled up into a road that leads into the Changebringer. She is very close and very far away at the same time. FCG can see her face. FCG asks if the gods can help their friends. The Changebringer says yes. FCG asks if she's worth saving. The Changebringer leans forward and is now right in front of FCG, and says, "Of course." FCG asks if she is scared, and she leans back and is now suddenly miles away. She turns her head and a mountain blows up and says yes. FCG says, "Alright, I'm coming." FCG wakes from the spell, looks around and sees that no one else is awake, and returns back to their sleep. Everyone gets a long rest. They all wake up and see the Tempest Blades are getting ready to move out. Bernie meets Orum's eyes. She says, "I guess it's time to get back." Orum asks if the other sisters will join him in seeing Derek and Will's graves. Bernie thinks that can be arranged. Orum says that's good, he doesn't know when they're going to be able to see them again. FCG tells Imogen and Fern that if something goes wrong with Chetney, he might be able to end the curse on the sword, so it should be able to help. Imogen asks if they should be ready to fight when they leave. Ashton says they should always be ready. Imogen then casts mage armor on herself and the others get ready. Bernie opens the stone door and there's a mist about. It's hard to tell what time of day it is. It always seems to be some sort of sunset around here. Orm makes a perception check of 30. Orm sees some rocks off in the distance. Fern casts Pass Without a Trace. Imogen tells the others that she had a dream last night and tells them what she saw. How there's a lot of people and they all looked at her. She doesn't know if they were Raioli or not. Hard to tell from the distance she was at. She feels much stronger about ending her connection with Predathos, however. Imogen wants to help the gods now more than ever. These demons getting loose are likely to the gods not being able to stop it. FCG agrees. Chetney asks if she saw anyone. She says that she saw her mother. She says that she wants to help the party but also wants to release Predathos. Chetney asks if she looked the same or if she looked a bit off. Imogen says she looked the same, just a bit spectral. Is Imogen sure it was her and not someone else pretending to be her? Imogen says that she reached out to feel her, so yes, she's fairly confident it is her. But something was pulling her. FCG tells the others that they talked to the Changebringer and believes that the Changebringer was pointing them toward the moon. FCG suggests asking the sword. Chetney asks if he knows of Predathos. The sword doesn't know anything. It asks if Prodothos is evil. Chetney says that he isn't sure. Fern then says to ask Ludinus about it, or to ask the sword about Ludinus. The sword has heard the name. He passed through during the sword's time as king, a very powerful being, but the sword doesn't trust him. Fern says to ask about the Matron of Ravens. Of course, the sword knows about the Matron of the Ravens, a prime deity. Chetney asks for an opinion, but the sword doesn't recall anything much about her. The party begin to make their way for a tree with the Tempest blades. The party roll stealth checks, and for the most part, they all roll really well, with the exception of a single nat 1 and a low 13. Everything else was really high, because, of course, Pass Without a Trace is great. They hear the rocks behind them as they move. They aren't noticed, however, as they travel. There are a few scary moments, but nothing comes close. They eventually reach the tree line. Ashton suggests they put the Tempest blades into the hole and have them teleport all with them so they don't have to waste any more time and potentially risk being hurt while they're gone. The party aren't sure, but Chetney and Fern and Laudna and FCG say that they'll go inside the hole and the others can teleport with Imogen out here. That way no one needs to wait. It's hard to find a spot for the hole, so FCG and Chetney start clearing a path or a big enough area for it to happen. They hear the rocks flying near. They quickly clear a space and throw the hole down and try to teleport. Imogen casts teleport, and with Orym next to her, there's no need for a roll. The magic grabs everyone who's still standing outside the hole. They're pulled through and they land in the midday sun of Zephyra. They open the hole and inside, everyone else is fine. They all get out and start moving toward Keyleth's place. They see people as they go by. Some are aware of what they were doing, and they wave as they go. They reach Keyleth's place and see Lita. She says that it's great that they've returned and hugs Bernie immediately. She's happy she made it back. Bernie says not everyone made it, but they'll mourn later. Some of the Ashari take the backpacks with the blue flowers and go to an alchemical lair. Many Ashari start working on the remedy. Eventually Nell, the mother of the triplets, rush up and hugs Bernie and sees Orym. She says he's done so much for Zephyr lately, and then she joins to make the remedy. An hour passes as they make it. The blue flower is now turned into a blue paste, and many bottles are filled with it. Some rush to Keyleth's, and some rush to throughout the city. Orym and FCG go to Keyleth's room. The rest slowly follow behind. Keyleth is trying to sit up, but the herbalists tell her to stay down. Her wounds begin to be treated by this blue paste. There is a sting that comes across her face. After a bit, Keyleth relaxes and she grabs some herbs and starts healing herself. The scar goes away completely on that one area that she chose to heal. FCG asks if she needs more help healing the rest, but they are told to shush. Eventually, Keyleth sits up and takes her crown and puts it on. She puts her hand out and looks to the window. All of the wounds vanish at this moment. She smiles and looks to Orym. She says he has her thanks. Orym is happy that they could help. She stands and kneels before Orym and thanks him. Orym says it doesn't feel like he's done anything right in a while, so he's glad to have a win. She looks to FCG and says they have a lot to talk about, but wants to help her people first. She wants to talk to the whole party at some point. Orym says they have lots of questions. Keyleth says to give her some time. Orym sees that she's thankful for another chance. She says to clean up and to take what they need before they talk about what comes next. Orym says they'll let her do her thing. Keyleth says the people need to know who to thank. She walks past the party and smiles at them. She goes outside to a balcony, and outside there are people. The people of Zephyr are gathering. Lita places a cloak on Keyleth, her classic cloak with all the leaves. The party hear the cheers of the crowd as she steps out to the balcony. The party feel good to have a win. Imogen says she forgot what it felt like to be a hero. FCG says it's nice, and it seems Orym might be celebrated and maybe promoted. Orym says Lita is the right hand of Keyleth. Laudna says Orym could be the left hand. Tholo comes up to Orym and asks if Orym wants to be on the balcony with the voice. The party basically push Orym to go. Orm is brought forward. Keyleth says there are many heroes here in Zephyra, and there are those who give everything for the future of the people, and today there are some more. Orm is then flanked by Bernie, the two Blades, and the soldiers from the Bastion. Keyleth tells the crowd for those who feel and ask for everyone to remember those who gave their lives for this cure and remedy. Keyleth steps aside and lets Orm, Bernie, the Tempest Blades, and the survivors of the Bastion move forward to the front of the balcony. The crowd cheers. Orm says, "Hearts and minds always Ashari, home and abroad, morning and night. Kayake?" I caught it a little bit. I wasn't sure what he said exactly. The crowd roars, and a celebration starts. Keyleth looks to Orm and says to bring his friends. He turns to them and tells them that it's time to meet her. Orm grabs Fern and pulls her towards the meeting. The party follow. They return to Keyleth's room. She's still leaning a bit, and she stands up as they come in. She says full recovery hasn't quite happened yet, but she feels way better. Keyleth says hello to the party, and it's now that she's set her people at ease that she can now talk freely with the party. Keyleth thanks them for helping her and her people. She says, however, she can't help, just let her know. Imogen says that she's sorry for how everything went down. Keyleth feels the same way. Imogen asks how much Keyleth knows since everything went down. Keyleth says that she's felt a shift in the weave of magic and has heard that the Ruidus moon sits much lower over Marquette. The temples are moving. The temples have been attacked and destroyed a little bit, spreading confusion in Vasselheim, dividing focus on the fight. FGG asks if she knows which temples have been attacked. She's heard of attacks all across, and that more keep happening. Keyleth says Ludinus was last seen in Wildmount, meeting with King Dwendal. He's been bedridden for years, and the Assembly has taken more responsibility due to it. Wildmount is probably about ready to break into chaos. Many of Vasselheim's army has returned, likely buying Ludinus a bunch of time. Keyleth doesn't know if the Assembly knows what Ludinus has done. There's dissent in the Assembly, however, and Orm wonders if there's allies there to be found. Orm tells Keyleth he and some others went to a temple of the Matron of Ravens and saw a vision. Keyleth's face turns stone. He says he saw a red beam going up to Ruidus, and in that vision, that man who appeared that day, Ludinus has him in some sort of prison. They could hear him in pain, screaming, yelling. Keyleth's eyes dart to the window. Fern asks about Keyleth's relationship with the matron. Keyleth says that she has a difficult relationship with all gods. Lana asks if it's enough to see them leave. Keyleth doesn't like them much, but she understands that others need them. So no. Lana asks them if the matron were to be gone, what would happen to that man. Keyleth doesn't know. Ashen tells Keyleth that they were aided by a champion of Asmodeus. Keyleth's face goes very harsh. Fern says he was a nice guy. Ashen says that they have interest in putting things back as well, which seems very troublesome. Keyleth says the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but don't get too close. She speaks from experience with that one. It's never just business. A little bit of Archon shade there. That's kind of sick. Imogen says it was helpful to have him on their side at the time. Keyleth says that's good, but keep them at their distance. Asmodeus is in as much danger as the rest, so it makes sense that there's a champion looking about. Imogen tells Keyleth of the people and the city on Ruidus. Keyleth says that's a lot and takes a deep breath. It's a lot of information. Orm says it's true and he's seen one of these cities. Keyleth doesn't distrust them. She asks what the party think of the people on the moon. FGG says probably not great. They must, they've met some of their people up there, or some of the people up there. Laudna tells Imogen to show Keyleth, and Imogen summons a crimson shade. Her cracks on her skin begin to glow red, and then a crimson shade appears. It's much more physically present than before. Half physical, half spectral. They have long arms with rings on them, and some sort of clothing on it. Its face is more shark-like than human-like, and they have chains on their head. Keyleth, looking at it, stands in a ready position. She's shocked and asks if she can just summon them. Imogen says that it was less detailed last time. The party can't tell if it's friendly or not. It asks Imogen what she requires. Imogen asks where it's from. It says, "You know where I'm from. How many of them are you?" As many as there's always been. "What are you trying to do? Serve you until the bond is broken." Imogen asks if it's seen anyone like her on the moon. No, it hasn't. She is strange to it, but also a familiar kin. "How long have you been there?" "It's been there its whole life." Keyleth asks for the information that's being shared, as it's all within their mind. Imogen tells her what she learned. Fern asks to ask for its name. Imogen then asks it. Imogen sees a gray flower and a sapphire that jingles as the wind hits it. Strange name. Imogen tells her name. It asks if she's among the dreamers. Imogen says yes. Imogen asks if it's been summoned before. No, it hasn't. She asks if it's happy to be part of the plan that's happening on Ruidus, or if it's against their will. Imogen sees visions of hills and fields and mountains. They see her dreams. Weird response. Imogen asks about Predathos. It says it's the heart of their world, and it's beginning to stir. Imogen ends the connection. The party hear creaking. They look and see, as Keyleth relaxes, thorns that were sticking out of the tree sink back into it, which is badass. Orm says Imogen is connected. Keyleth points to Imogen's arms and says they have more in common than she initially thought at first. Imogen says they aren't friendly. They seem to resent Exandrians. Laudna says they were working with the Grim Verity at one point, and one of the members believed that Ruidus was made by a piece of Exandria. Laudna is wondering that if the Raioli were once like them, Exandrian, and then were tossed up. Imogen says that might mean that she might end up like them. Ashen says it seems after hundreds of years they just changed, or were forced to change. Orm asks what Keyleth would have them do with this limited information. Keyleth says that she's been blessed or cursed to face a handful of cataclysms in her time, and I've met many who have faced them, and none of them knew what to do with it. They had many obstacles in their path, but still did it anyway. Keyleth says if they intend to go to Ruidus, they can't do it alone. FGG asks if Keyleth is going to come with them. Keyleth says that she has some friends to reach out to and see who's willing to make those sacrifices. I honestly wonder who she's talking about, for the most part, because some of them, pretty obvious, but not all of them. Shenny asks how many more allies she has as she kind of rolled deep for the dig site. Keyleth says that she has friends all across Tal'Dorei and friends abroad, and some friends that did great things in her youth. That's what I'm talking about. She specifies there's a difference between Vox Machina and a bunch of her other friends, so I'm very interested in seeing who she means. I'm curious if she's ever met the Mighty Nine, because of the connection with her mother from Campaign 2, if you know, you know. But, yeah. She says that to make the journey herself, she has to make the journey herself, as communication right now is difficult, as we well know. She says the party should do the same and meet up when ready. Laudna says with everything that happened, they don't really have many allies to go to. Imogen asks if there's other champions of the gods out there they can seek. Chetney asks if Keyleth is a champion. Keyleth says no. Ashen asks if her powers are more so connected to a primordial thing. Keyleth says that they've been gone for a very long time. Laudna wonders if they can call the primordials in, but Keyleth says the gods got rid of them, so probably not. Fern wonders if Predathos wants the champions to come together for some reason. Ashton asks where Keyleth's powers come from. She says her connection to nature and she supposed old spirits of the primordials. Lana asks if that means the Eidolons. Keyleth says that's the Isilra name for them, but yes. Many call them different things. Ashton then brings up the Hishari. Keyleth says that they have a bastardized following of these Eidolons, but yes. Ashton then says that they are from the Hishari and wants to know more. Keyleth tells the history of the Hishari, and says that it's a lesson. She tells Ashton to give her hand. She grabs Ashton's hands and his head starts to flicker. Wind picks up in the room and Keyleth sees something. She lets go and says that he has magic that she doesn't recognize, but one that she does. Ashton has Titan blood in them, which is crazy. She's glad someone with their potential is with Orym, and is a little nervous by it. Ashton shows the symbol of an hourglass that's vaguely Hishari. Keyleth says that that's the Hishari symbol for sure. No wonder the Eidolons took to them. Ashton asks where they can learn more. Keyleth doesn't really know at this time. Keyleth is unsure if their blood and their head magic get along well. Keyleth thinks that the Hishari must have had something to make Ashton that way. They don't have that power, but they aren't quite sure what. She thinks that the story of Yvonne Ver, the Great Tree of Apathy, is the best bet. It's an ancient tree in the Shattered Teeth. Maybe that's somewhere to go gain powers or allies. FGG thinks that this could be a good reset for the gods and the primordials, but questions if it's a good idea to go there. It could not be worth the risk. Lana asks if Keyleth knows of the Veridon tomb with the crystal inside of the Gaudrashari spirit. Keyleth does know of this and says that when when the other powerful beings like her are connected to the land and the spirit, they live a long time. Some feel a calling to return to the land. Some become a symbolic tree and guardian stones. Some actually become trees. Yvonne Trevere was one of them. They became the latter, like a symbolic tree. Sorry, not a symbolic tree, an actual tree. Chenny thinks it's a good idea to go for those who aren't connected to the gods to find allies. FGG questions why they would help the gods after what they did to the primordials. Chenny says it's about keeping Predathos away, and the primordials helped seal Predathos away. Imogen fears that those connected to the primordials might tell them to just fuck off, so it might just be a waste of time. She also says those losing powers are connected to the gods. Maybe those connected to the primordials aren't. Keyleth just got her powers back, so she'll just let them know when she figures it out. Orym asks what they're to do when they finally have allies. Ashton says whatever they can. FGG says outside of these maybe allies, they don't have many to turn to. They're either busy, like with the former guests, or unable to fight, like with Plane Rider Rin, who is currently still stoned and maybe smashed, we don't know. FGG says that this should be a good way to get the primordials and the gods to talk it out. Ashton says there was an elemental back in Isilra that listened to them. Keyleth says that she believes him, and that elementals are what's left of the primordials. Lana asks if Keyleth means for them to go to other elemental planes. Keyleth says through the primordial's death, the elemental planes were made, and that the elementals were born, so suggesting that that's possibly somewhere they could go. Chetney asks if she's been to the Shattered Teeth before. She has been once, to an island named Cheval. She was looking for answers on the words of the gods. She didn't find any answers that she liked. There she met a woman, Girena, who helped her through her grief. She can see if she's alive and can send them to her. FGG says that's their only really good lead that they have so far. Chetney asks for a map of the Shattered Teeth, but Keyleth says that there isn't one because the islands of it move, which is fucking cool. Keyleth says the teeth were made when Dominus, one of the bigger continents, was destroyed during the Calamity. Imogen remembers the harness that they found that was Ludinus and shows Keyleth. They explain that it was Ludinus's, and what he did to drain power and prolong his life. They show her the notes on it. She sees that it's used to draw power from Fey entities. It's like how she and other people like her extend their lives through extend their lives. He is mimicking this in a more unnatural way. Chetney asks if it still works. She says it's broken but might be workable if repaired. Keyleth says out loud that she read Feed the Root. She says that the root is the core of a being and it's believed to be at the base of the neck. And then she shows them how this harness will be put on and it lines up with the base of the neck. Imogen says they should cut off his head. Keyleth says there's something to that. Keyleth has no idea on what twisted progression this harness would do to the person who wore it, but if there's a place to do it. Fern is confused. Ludinus is obsessed with the matron of ravens, so why does he want her dead? The party think it's so he can become a god. Keyleth said the means of becoming a god is impossible. She says the last person to try is no longer on the realm, the Whispered One. Ashton knows of this name and the events of Vasselheim and the Titan that still stands above it, and the Whispered One, obviously. Laudna's spine shivers with the mention of that name. Keyleth says the right was lost to history by the matron. Ashton says so someone does know how to do it still, the matron. Matt reminds the players that whenever they heard Ludinus, it was less about becoming a god, but more about the heroic journey to free Exandria from them. Laudna says that she pities the Raioli. Imogen does as well. They were ripped from the world, or pulled from it, and now are forced to live on Ruidus. Chetney says Ira met with one. Maybe they are, or maybe there's someone up there to help them. Imogen suggests she gives in to understand what Prodalthus is. FGG questions how they'll get her back. Ashton says to go in with help if they do eventually try this. Imogen thinks all Raioli have a pull to Prodalthos. FGG says they have other options first. That should be the last resort. Imogen asks Keyleth if she thinks there's time. Keyleth says there's never is. There's only the time you're willing to take. But if you take too long, you will be too late to stop. So it's hard to gauge. FGG says they have a few days, as Keyleth will need a few days to do her own travel. Laudna says this may be a two-part job, defeating Ludinus and resealing Prodalthos. Orym says they should just go. They're wasting a bit of time. Keyleth goes over everything they've said so far and says the harness could be useful if repaired. The party could go to Milo or to Joe. Ashton suggests Percy, but Keyleth says Percy is brilliant, but enchantment really isn't their thing, or his thing. Imogen suggests Dancer's friend, but Imogen remembers that D, he's ancient, maybe this is more up his alley. Chet says if they fix it, they could aim it at a tree, the old one of the old Galdrasari in Isilra, and get some power, but they don't want to kill it, so they would only take a little bit of it. Laudna says they can all share the harness and go to the hotspots to gain power. The party want to look for someone to fix the harness, so they want to find D. FGG casts Scry on D. FGG sees a later afternoon, a sunset, and hears crashing waves on a road traveling over hills and some tropical trees nearby. A cart is being pulled by horses, and standing next to it is a cloaked figure, and every step they take, there is a metal clang. FGG looks to see if they recognize the place. They don't, but by the description, Chetney can recognize that it's the Menagerie Coast. FGG says they know where he was, but he sold FGG to Dancer, and Dancer fixed them, not him, but they can try. Laudna says, does Dancer even want to see FGG? Dancer says this is a good chance to fix things. Ashton questions this and says, if someone doesn't want to talk to you, the best way to talk to them again is asking again, which is hilarious and very sarcastic. Laudna says the Menagerie Coast is close to the Shattered Teeth. Keyleth says her travel will require her magic, so she wants to help as much as possible, but she also needs to gather her allies, so she can't constantly be hopping them around everywhere. FGG has no proof, or FGG says they have no proof that D can fix anything. Dancer has. The party chooses to scry on Dancer. FGG sees a dark room, it's messy, and Dancer is half passed out on a couch. FGG does not recognize the place. FCG sees someone walking, but not enough to make out any details. The party, they tell the party they have no idea where she is. FCG says they can just ask their god where to go, and FCG casts divination. If I wanted to find someone to fix this thing being the harness, where should I go? The wind around Keyleth picks up and whispers to FCG. The path with the one from your past you are most bound to. This confuses the fuck out of the party, as they are connected to both. FGG casts it again. Would you say I'm more bound to D or Dancer? The path to the mind of which gave you your life renewed. Chenny thinks that's D, but FGG says that it's Dancer, so they're still confused. Imogen says that they have a memory of D, so they were probably brought back by them, and Dancer just claimed that they did it. Ashton says that this is a chance to make a new friend with D. FGG casts it again, and simply asks, is it Dancer? The road you seek will guide you to the one whose name starts with D. Fucking asshole. The party asks who FGG wants to go see. Fern suggests flipping a coin, but FGG says that the party seem to want to go to see D. So, and they also have no clue where Dancer is. Orem says that the beach of the Menagerie Coast is fucking massive, so how are they going to possibly narrow it down? Ashton says that if Imogen can see images, then they can go to wherever they were. Like, no problem with the staff. Orem says to Keyleth they've done some good things. Keyleth says that she's worked with a bunch of slapdicks in the past, and she'll tell them about a goldfish one day, which irks Marisha just a little bit. Imogen says if they scry on D and Dancer tomorrow, they can take the staff and teleport there. The party liked this idea. The party now choose to rest and gather stuff that they need for the next day. Keyleth thanks the Bell's house for all they've done so far, and that she's proud of all of them. She kneels to Orem and says, Orem, I was once like you, young and burdened with knowledge and filled with a rage and conflicted fear. The need to fix this broken world and the fear of not doing enough at all. All it takes is one brave person to step forward to rally others around them. Keyleth sees a bravery in Orem. She recognizes it from herself. But as heavy as it is, he still needs to take that step. For when the others rally, they will help you carry it. And she points out the celebration that's happening with people cheering basically for Orem. Orem is a paragon of daring and will, and has had a hard time and had to change because of this cold reality. You are hope, you are Orem, you are my friend. Savior Blade of the Tempest. Badass title. Orem says this feels heavy, and he is very small. Keyleth says that she watched someone smaller speak a few words and send a new god to a realm they'll never return from. He thanks her. She goes to lay down and the party head out to do some things. They might get new tattoos for Orem while they're here, because there's lots of good artists around here in Zephyra. Ashton says this is all in the hope to stop something much bigger than them all. They all talk about everything else they learned today and did, but they step into the town of Zephyra and they are met by the crowd cheering, and here's where the episode ends. And there you have it, episode 68. I enjoyed this one. I very much like seeing or learning about new characters and new things, so I'm very intrigued by the idea of the party going into the Shattered Teeth, potentially meeting up with D, Devexian, and, you know, I'm very intrigued by who Keyleth is talking about when she mentions that she has allies in Teldore and abroad, and then still brings up Vox Machina within the same sentence. So, very intrigued to see who these other friends are that she knows. She's obviously, it's been 30 years, like 30 plus years at this point. I'm pretty sure it's like 35, 36. So I'm very intrigued by who she knows. Like I said earlier, I wonder if she's met up with the Mighty Nine, which wouldn't surprise me, as there is a mild connection there between them, as they basically saved her mother. So, yeah, very intrigued to see who she knows, and maybe that will tie into the Mighty Nine one shot they do. So, we'll see. Very intrigued by this now. I do think that that might be what it is, that they're like sort of leading into the Mighty Nine one shot a little bit. So, yeah, very excited. This episode was really fun. I enjoyed learning about it. There wasn't like too much like massive lore dumps. Sometimes they do like really big ones with long like exposition drops, but this one was really good. It was really well paced and I really enjoyed it. It did not feel like it was 4 hours long, but it was. So yeah, overall I thought this was a fun episode. With that, I will see you guys on Tuesday with whatever video I make next. Peace.